Another video by Jerry Peet, eh? And he's bashing dubstep? Well, things won't end too well.
Guys, we're being invaded!
By who?
Canada. And they want to take our electronica.
No!
Ugh, Canada's face.
Guys, shouldn't we thaw out Duke first?
So dubstep. That's a big thing with people. New genre music just popped up, what, 5-6 years ago?
Technically, it debuted in 2001 and started getting popular around 2005.
Has it been that long? It's probably around for a while. Dubstep, it's part of the larger electronica genre, and I don't like electronica. You guys are probably very much aware of this. I don't like electronica. I've always found it's a bit of a spit in the face of to music.
I think generalizing an entire genre as a spit in the face to music might just be the slightest bit ignorant.
I remember making the exact same accusations in 2010 when I did not know any better about the nature of electronica. I would take your comments seriously if it were not for the fact that so many people who claim to be fans of music constantly excoriate genres like rap, metal, and of course electronica and EDM. These claims always end up to be comically one-dimensional, and I'm half expecting your points to be the same.
Okay, here is my prediction for this video. He is going to 1. Compare all electronic artists to Skrillex or a YouTube dubstep maker. 2. Blindly attack him even though clear evidence towards the other side is only about a nanometer away. And 3. Say that all real music is played through an instrument and not through pushing buttons on a computer. But that's only my prediction. After watching this video and writing the script.
Why though? Why don't I like electronica is the never-ending answer. And of course people always do the same thing. They inevitably they always do it. When I say I don't like something, they start throwing out recommendations.
The only reason why people are making recommendations is because they're trying to disprove your obvious generalization of the genre of electronica. They're additionally saying electronica is a diverse genre. But of course, you'll say these recommendations are abject acts of futility. Your high horse is calling and wants you to ride it.
And of course, me saying I don't like something they interpret that to recommend their favorites to me. They do it with anime, they do it with fucking everything that I say I don't like. The recommendations always pour in. And it's not the musician. It's not the musician I have an issue with 90% of the time, because I don't consider them musicians.
If you're talking about specific genres, then you're attacking the entire genre just because of a select few. If you are not considering artists, you're just using labels to deflect those who have different opinions. And haven't found examples, which I find kind of uninformed of you, seeing that you try to be serious throughout your videos.
I don't think that the people who make dubstep are in fact musicians. I don't know. They will never be musicians in my eye.
Musician. Noun. A person who makes music a profession, especially as a performer of music. No you.
My issue with dubstep comes from more of just, I find it's very disrespectful.
Disrespectful? Are you fucking high?
And your self-aggrandizing comments aren't just as disrespectful?
The difficulty of making that a form of art acts as its own quality control.
Okay, time for a theoretical question. What if there is a man who has some really good ideas, really knows what he wants to do, and has the idea of how to play him, but can't play the instrument because of a high learning curve? Well, that learning curve had just ruined a musician with the possibility of making really good and interesting music. And while I'm here, I will just say this. Is This It by The Strokes is a very easy album to make. The guitar riffs are simple, the singing is not hard, and the songs are very short. That album is one of the most critically acclaimed albums of the 2000s. And on the other side, Surrounded by Silence by the Sky and the Skyline is a very complex song. Lots of changes, it's very long, and has a fast guitar riff. It's one of the worst songs of all time. And he says difficulty is a form of quality control.
So, something has less value because it's not difficult? You do realize that there are many factors that can actually be used to judge the quality of anything? Yes, even subjective things like songs. And none of those are or involve time and difficulty. The difficulty, nor the time it takes, are things that don't affect quality. Here, let me demonstrate. Donkey Kong Country had a very short dev cycle compared to most first-party Nintendo games, and yet is considered one of the best 2D platforms on the SNES, while Duke Nukem Forever had one of the longest dev cycles ever, and is considered one of, if not the biggest disappointments in gaming history. Now, I know some idiot's going to say, that's not what he meant! But here's the thing. All Jerry said was that challenge and time are objective ways to judge art. NVIDIA is an art form.
Anyone can sing, okay? Okay, like really anyone could sing or just play some crappy music or whatnot, but realistically, you were never gonna get that published. You were never gonna get your singing in the shower published. Ever.
Really? You're from Canada. You know, the country where a lot of talentless pop stars are from, and they jump the border to infect our country with their bad hair and maple syrup. Yeah, you can be published if you're a terrible singer, but that doesn't mean the whole genre is terrible. Judging an entire genre just because it spawns a few awful songs or artists is dumb. You're pretty much saying I shouldn't like metal because I don't like deathcore. Also, iTunes and Amazon are places where you can put up any crappy song and it gets published, even if you're Canadian. Learn to research.
Anyone can attempt to sing and play crappy music, but not everyone can play music and sing well. Granted, that sort of thing is somewhat subjective, but I'm sure your average Joe can pick out a good singer from someone who tries to sing and fails. American Idol's contestants demonstrate this principle very well, despite the show itself being a hack import from Britain. Your faith in other musicians is horrendously low here.
And neither would any old dubstep maker get published for just making a few beats in GarageBand. Most of the artists that become popular in the EDM world are popular because they have the precision and technique to know exactly where to put a part song, just where to put the beat, just where to put the synth, just where to put the pitch. Just because you can make a bunch of lackluster EDM tracks on YouTube does not mean that all EDM songs are like that. That just means you have a couple of hacks. It's the same with rap, it's the same with pop, it's the same with any genre of music.
It just wasn't gonna happen. And so it didn't, and so that kind of stuff didn't spread. You really only saw quality music get out. And of course, yeah, sure, there was always shit. There was always crappy music. There was disco in the 70s, pop in the 80s.
Wow! You can hear Michael Jackson rolling in his grave from here.
In the 2000s, and we hit 2010, and suddenly, bam, electronica has come back full swing.
I have a problem with your problem with rap, hip-hop, and R&B in the 2000s. I suppose people and artists like Coldplay, Eminem, The Avalanches, Bjork, Gorillaz, Missy Elliott, Milo, Common, Amy Winehouse, LCD Soundsystem, and even Lupe Fiasco are all immediately terrible based on your labels. Unless you clarify, your dismissal of many of these artists is ridiculous and alarming.
Electronica first showed up as synthesizers, the electric piano, and to a lesser extent the electric guitar, but those instruments still required knowledge of the original instrument to play.
Yeah, and the instruments of electronica are that easy to play. Yeah, it may seem easy to learn, but that doesn't mean it's easy to create. You mentioned later that there's a difference between making music and playing music, and it's actually really hard to make an electronica. Because, as I said, you have to know exactly where to put the snare, exactly where to put the pitch of the synth. This shit requires knowledge, both in the instrument and in music theory, which is actually just as hard as a regular instrument.
So I guess, based on your line of logic, something like this.
And so begins our odyssey, and we begin our odyssey, and so begins our odyssey. The aria is bleeding, oh, and the boyish voice is leaving. I bet an evil tenor, oh, I feel the innocence still eyes with blue. You're my only softness, oh, you're my only pleasure. It's true.
Is just easy to program into a computer. I bet you can do that yourself, you musical virtuoso, you.
To play an electric guitar, you had to know how to play a guitar. To play a synthesizer, you had to know how to play the piano. You don't need to do that anymore. That is not the case. Anybody, absolutely anybody, can download GarageBand or FL Studio or any number of programs and slap something together.
And any number of people can go out and buy a guitar and strum a few chords. I can make retarded statements that are nothing more than sweeping generalizations too, you know.
I understand that the accessibility to music editing software can enable people to create crappy music, but really not all the music produced by computer software is crappy. You're just upset because music today has become more accessible, and you should be pillorying laziness, not the actual software used to create the music.
I did it not too long ago. I downloaded FL Studio, gave it a try, and within a few hours, I had just downloaded the program, recreated one of the songs from Nightmare Before Christmas. That is how quick the learning curve is.
Maybe you were able to make something simple in FL Studio, but like any instrument, there are varying levels of skill, and someone who has spent much more time with the program than you and have learned the different plugins and functions will be able to make something much more complex. I can play a few short tunes on the piano, but that doesn't mean I'm fucking Beethoven, and that anyone who makes anything on the piano isn't making real music.
Wait a minute, where's the fucking proof this happened? You're expecting us to step up to your baseless assumption and believe it just because you said it? We haven't heard a beat of a song. The version could be... He's simple. He could be lying. He could have not even tried. I guess we have to be sheep and believe him, because that's what our Lord Jerry believes. Shut the fuck up.
Recreating a pre-existing song with a form of music proves that said type of music isn't quote-unquote real music? So I guess some random schmuck who picks up a guitar and strums out a simple song is proving that guitars aren't real instruments, or that rock isn't real music. Just because you can recreate a pre-existing song doesn't mean that it isn't artistic, or an insult to whatever you're talking about. But hey, actually writing any song is hard work, and you won't admit that since it would prove you wrong, and we can't shatter your delusion that you're always right. Covers have always existed in music since the very beginning. It's nothing new, and it's most definitely not less artistic.
If I had stuck with it, maybe I could have made some really cool stuff, but I didn't because it's not music.
How can you say that it's not real music when you're creating digital sounds through the computer that can harmonize with each other? I think music is about sound creation, not restricting music to certain implements. How do you explain found sounds then? Should we ban the use of garbage cans and pencils as instruments too?
I grew up playing the piano.
My first favorite instrument!
We know already!
Also keep in mind what Jerry said about the piano being one of the most complex instruments to learn.
Is harder to play, but that's more you need like a really strong set of lungs. The piano has always been the more complex because you can hit so many notes. You really have to, not only do you have to learn how to move each hand individually, you gotta have really good precision, really good dexterity.
Comparing acoustic pianos to FL Studio is really apples to oranges.
The same can apply to guitars when you're constantly shifting your fingers to create new sounds and chord arrangements. The same can also apply to violins, where you're not only playing with the bow in one hand, but you're using your fingers on your other hand to create sound. These two instruments require dexterity and coordination. Pianos do require the use of two hands, but you're not using a bow or strumming, are you? But hey, that's all well and good because you certainly don't talk about having an ear for...
You've also got to have an ear for music. I've always found some of the best pianists are the ones who can play by ear.
Well, I guess he did. As an amateur piano player... who does play by ear, I can tell you that my skill sets have nothing to do with creating music on a digital music editing platform, because most of the time you're adding notes to a scale individually, and I think that requires a lot of skill considering you need to be very aware of how to read music in order to do it. What does your spiel add to your ridiculous contentions?
Proof? Examples? No? Just conjecture and vague statements then? Fine. But don't come whining to me when four assholes make a commentary on you and call you out for your lack of proof.
The ones who don't need to be looking at sheet music to play something. Because they not only have the finesse to play a piano, they have the inherent musical talent.
Oh, hey, meaningless buzzword that only exists so people can make shit up about something and make it seem like they actually said something of value? Junior?
To just do it on a whim. right from the word go.
Yeah, no. It takes a lot more than just having an ear for music to make a song. Like, oh, I don't know, knowledge of musical theory, knowledge of lyric construction and poetry. It's funny that you're outright ignoring those things and only focusing on the learning curve of playing an instrument. Most people who can play instruments can't write music. If all you do is judge based off a learning curve, then I guess those people who can't write music sure are professional musicians. I guess that means that this is more artistic than this, since the first one was painted on a canvas and the second one was digital art. And we all know how easy digital art is compared to painting.
Yeah. You like this, huh, Jerry Peet? You like the way I tickle these digital ivories? Ooh, you make me laugh, Jerry Peet. Ooh, you make me laugh. I'm done now.
And it's one of the most beautiful things to ever hear, because it's not quite pre-planned. You tend to see little, like, shifts in the tempo. When someone's playing completely by ear, no sheet music, just playing a song that they know, you can sort of hear the tempo of the music pop up and down. It climbs, it falls, it gets faster, it gets slower, it gets louder. Sometimes you'll hear them just hitting the keys harder. You can feel them get into it.
So, being able to audibly hear mistakes by the performer is a good thing now? Huh, who knew?
Speaking of hearing mistakes, and I know this happened after this video came out, but it still fits, when Idina Menzel performed Let It Go on New Year's Eve, she missed a single note. The highest note, and that small portion was blasted all over Twitter. Yeah, those small changes are so good, aren't they?
And you can probably even replicate these slight tonal changes and tempo shifts on music editing software. It might not be as authentic as the real thing, but that doesn't imply the person doing it has no talent or isn't a musician.
Just by listening to it, you can hear and feel them get into it. You get that a little bit with other instruments, but with the piano it comes more naturally, because the piano's tune changes the harder you hit the keys. With the quicker you hit the keys, just you can do so many amazing things with the piano. And to an extent you can do that with an electric piano. But because of how it's designed, it doesn't respond as well. An acoustic piano, the grand piano.
I want to point out that you're laying on so much false and or vague praise onto the piano. That screams bias, especially since you ignore this thing called analog circuitry. Analog circuitry is the same thing that controllers use to make their joysticks have pressure sensitivity. Then there's also Moog synths that also use analog circuitry. This sensitivity to pressure allows the exact same thing as what you described, but then again, knowing that requires research, and we all know you can't be bothered with fact-checking since that has the possibility to prove you wrong.
Is the most refined and elegant of instruments, as the Rainbow Rock short would say.
And who are you? Berg Productions? Next you're going to tell me that an acoustic piano is more inexpensive than an electric piano. Buy yourself a Steinway, you musical purist.
The grand piano, it just sounds absolutely lovely.
Your bias is
That's where really
showing.
good covers come from. When you just hear someone play a song that you'd never expect to fit, and this is especially true with transcribers. I find that people who can transcribe songs that have never been on a piano onto a piano make some of the best sounding music I've ever seen.
Again, you could transcribe that sort of music to a video editing program and recreate the music that way, which could very well lead to equally as interesting results. I'm not saying you can't do that on an acoustic or electric piano. I'm saying making elegant tunes and great covers is not exclusive to analog instruments.
Like DJ Delta Zero, whose music I use in Glass of Water. Yeah, that's done electronically, but that's someone with actual talent in playing the piano, and that skill translates well. You take someone out of that element, you take someone out who only does electronica out of electronica, they can't do it.
Proof. Where is your fucking proof? You can't just up and assume that, hey, I know something, let's play a little game. So, since you think people who compose electronica music wouldn't be able to make quote-unquote real music, then why don't you show me one single, solitary person who proves you're right? You give nothing to support your reasons why you hate electronica, yet the audience is expected to listen to your unintelligible shit. Answer me this, if you give us nothing, why should we take a thing you say seriously?
I've seen it happen. I've seen people who work in FL Studio, which has a piano-like interface. And you get them to play an actual piano, they can't do it.
You literally just said.
one of the most complex instruments.
And now you're saying giving someone who has never played the piano, one of the most complex instruments to play the piano. I love logic.
They can't do it. They don't have the dexterity. They don't have the finesse.
I suppose it's only true in the world of anecdotes. I'm fairly sure you were probably talking to someone who clearly had no idea how FL Studios works, because anyone who creates reasonable music through FL Studios has to have some idea regarding instruments and how to play them. Maybe his music was crap because he just threw something together without any prior knowledge, which again brings into question your arrangement of The Nightmare Before Christmas. What is your musical background? We don't hear any of those details in your video, Sonny. Also, moving people out of their comfortable genres always yields terrible results.
Some would argue that this is a good thing, because the barrier to entry is lowered, but no, because the barrier to entry was the medium's quality control. To make a living making music, you had to be good at making music. Yes, of course, there were exceptions. Of course, you got pop stars whose only marketable skill was shaking their asses, but that's a different problem altogether. You take away the industry of music, Katy Perry will still be able to make a living, because her actual skill had nothing to do with music. Electronica is a different animal entirely. There's no real soul behind it. There's no soul within the music. There's no passion behind it.
Because bringing up terms like soul totally doesn't make you sound like you're just preaching to the choir, right?
You do know that soul and passion are both these tiny insignificant things called weasel words. Weasel words are buzzwords used to avoid actually having to explain what they mean. Ignoring your conscious choice of using those words, can you explain what the fuck soul and passion is? Because music can't have a soul, since it's, you know, an idea.
Speaking of weasel words, Jerry, I've heard you mention a few times in your other videos about how you hate Fox News. Well, using weasel words is something Fox does. Only Fox has hot chicks, so I'd rather watch them.
Then you never have listened to Moby's Porcelain. Listen to that and tell me if that's devoid of soul, you thrower of subjective words, you. And if that doesn't convince you, Hot Shots 2 by the Beta Band is another electronica-based album that attacks you viscerally.
Hey everyone, let's play the album recommendation game. Kid A and Amnesiac by Radiohead. Tomorrow's Modern Boxes by Tom York. Random Access Memories by Daft Punk. You're Dead in Cosmic Ram by Flying Lotus. The Fall by Gorillaz. Untrue by Burial. Settle by Disclosure. Sire by Aphex Twin. Do you see where I'm coming from?
Sure, there might be people who are really hell-bent on making music who are doing electronica, and maybe with enough practice they could make some real music. But for the most part, electronica is easy. It's easy to make, it's easy to put out, it's easy to market.
You know, I've noticed something. You haven't explained what the fuck you mean!
You're done. You can squat over your laptop and shit out something on GarageBand, and you can throw it up on iTunes and make money. Just like how you can slap something together in Unity Engine, throw it up on Steam Early Access, and make money.
You think that only applies to electronica? Ever heard of rap, Jerry? Unless you're going to say that isn't music either, which, well, have fun with that.
But do you expect this slap-together product to generate massive success? And do you expect every single slap-together product to generate massive success all the time? Maybe in your cynical mind, but last I checked, Skrillex's Recess scored a 2.05 out of 5, so shut yo face and stop underestimating the consumer audience's music choices.
And here's where your logic falls flat. You see, most people would call rap music. You can release any crappy verse over a pre-made beat, call it a mixtape, and put it on SoundCloud, Amazon, YouTube, or iTunes. I guess rap is a slap in the face of music, but that's not true. We have gotten so many good rap albums over the past few years, and that's not going to be changing anytime soon. It's the same with electronica and dubstep. Also, fun fact, those singles that are lazily done, or as bad as you say, they don't get much attention! They're forgotten. They go unnoticed. No one sees it because they're too busy listening to good shit that people actually tried and give effort to. It'll be drowned out by so much better music that you just ignore.
Yes, because obviously a crappy song that no one will buy that was slapped together in a short time will become a success on iTunes because anyone who likes what Jerry does is a tasteless sheep who supports misogyny and the destruction of the music industry.
And you have taken a shit on the industry. And, you know, with video games, doesn't bother me all that much. It's video games.
Well, of course you don't if your opinion on GG is any indication.
The art of music. Music is a big thing for me. It's like animation. I have this really good admiration of really good music, and I like some crappy music too. God, I can't even count how many times I've listened to 3 or 4 different songs from Fallout Boy of all people. Like, I like some crappy music. But it's in the sense of listening to, say, the odd song from Fallout Boy, or that Fallen Leaves song from Billy Talent. That's akin to playing Metal Gear Rising or Bayonetta in a sort of so corny, so hammy, so bad it's fun.
I understand that you appreciate the art form of music, but have you ever considered some of the people who are interested in dubstep who may like it for the same reasons you implicitly stated? Perhaps some like it as a guilty pleasure, or perhaps some think of it as a so bad it's good genre. Your music preference pedestal is too high in this regard.
And yeah, music should have that. Music should have their equivalent of nanomachines, son.
People didn't play Metal Gear Rising for nanomachines, son. They played it for the gameplay. That was just a meme that spawned from people playing the game and thinking that line was funny. Same with Bayonetta. The gameplay is why people like it.
That's a good thing, but electronica is not the musical equivalent of nanomachines, son. Electronica is the musical equivalent of strategy first games.
No, fuck you! No, you fucking moron! You're comparing musicians like Tom York, Flying Lotus, sort of frequently mentioned Daft Punk, some of the most acclaimed artists of the 21st century, to a publisher, as in they did not make the games, who had, without any guilt, released games like Bad Rats or Desert Gunner, games which have no substance, are forever broken, and are just made to make a quick fucking buck. Haven't we showed you were wrong already? Why are you making so many stupid points?
He pointlessly brings up capitalism for no reason, so we decided to skip that section.
Your face! God damn it! God damn it! God damn it!
Music is something that can really leave me awestruck. I think of all the film soundtracks, all the game soundtracks, all those times I've just been listening to the music over the dialogue, and it's just so captivating. And now we're sitting in an ocean of metal in a cheese grater. That's what a lot of this stuff sounds like.
So, Trent Reznor's soundtrack for The Social Network is Metal in a Cheese Grater. Portishead's Dummy is Metal in a Cheese Grater. Depeche Mode, Massive Attack, Boards of Canada, Later Ulver, Daft Punk, LCD Sound System, Pet Shop Boys, Orbital, The Chemical Brothers, Manuel Gotching, and Jean-Michel Jarre are all Metal in a Cheese Grater. Note how they are all from different time periods and have their own unique sounds. Electronica isn't this homogeneous genre that consists of a bunch of losers with too much time on their hands with FL Studios. And a lot of the musicians behind these acts have been classically trained with other instruments anyway. You're probably only thinking of the Billboard hits of 2014 and no other artists. Such a narrow-minded interpretation of the genre.
It sounds like metal in a blender. Someone is filling a blender with gravel and pressing puree. And people eat this up. And that bothers me. That bothers me on a really big, fundamental level.
You probably only listened to Lou Reed's Metal Machine music before making that determination. That is true metal in a blender.
Listen to anything by Rat-a-tat or Daft Punk and tell me it sounds like metal in a blender. And synthesizers apparently automatically sound terrible. You're right, Cherry. It isn't about the artist. It's about your unfathomable bias.
Metal to a cheese grater? Really? You sure are right that Make or Break, Long Dream, and Calling from the World Ends With You, the entirety of pre-PS1 Final Fantasy soundtracks, and Payday 2's soundtrack sure do sound like that. Seriously, take off your blinders, you music fag, and actually listen to a variety of songs instead of judging an entire genre based off of a select few.
Yeah, because it's all modern music is shit, and we just need to have real orchestral music or classic rock. Give me a fucking break. This is seriously what the guy sounds like. Not all dubstep is Skrillex, or any YouTube dubstep maker for that matter. And dubstep wasn't always sounding like this. Look at albums like Untrue by Burial, or Settle by Disclosure. they don't sound like metal in a cheese grater or whatever. It actually shows that you have no knowledge of this, because Lash by Disclosure was a pretty big hit last year, and Burial is one of the most successful indie dubstep acts you could find. How do you not know this? I'm this close to cracking. I'm this close to cracking. I'm being honest. I'm this close to just cracking.
And throwing recommendations in my face isn't going to do anything, because it's always the same problem. I can hear when it's a synthesizer. I can tell when it's a synthesizer. I can tell when something is generated by your sound card.
Really? Well, go listen to any pre-PS3 era game OST and tell me with a straight face that you can differentiate a synth orchestra from a live one, because I know from experience you won't be able to.
Well, what if an artist can use that effect to good effect? I mean, you say that it gives a unique sound. It could give the viewers a different feeling while listening, a different tone. It could give a nice sound. Do anything you could do with other music, you can do with those programs. Yeah, I know it doesn't require as much work as a real instrument, at least physically, but not every piece of music has to be the seared by swans to actually be good music.
So you clearly have the untapped ability to tell instruments apart from each other and recognize if they are digitally or organically produced. Maybe that's why people give you recommendations, because they're inclined to disagree and are aware of the incredulity of your proposition. Perhaps actually listen to some recommendations before resisting them in an attempt to say, I know better, damn it!
I can tell when the difference between someone who has been able to pick up a violin or a flute or sit at a piano and play a song versus someone who taps a few buttons on their keyboard and makes a song. There's the difference. Really ask yourself the difference between making music and playing music.
The biggest difference is, you can make a career out of making music. You'd be hard-pressed to make a career out of just playing 1 or 2 songs you learned at band camp.
The other side to that is remixes. And I'm an MLP-focused channel, and of course the issue of music comes up. People always want me to listen to remixes. People make remixes and want me to listen to them. People send me, like, their favorite remixes, and there's so many musicians, in the biggest finger quotes, in the brony community, and it's all garbage.
Then maybe step out of the microcosm of the brony community and listen to better remixes of, I don't know, The Flaming Lips. These are actually great. I can think of more examples, but I suppose you're not interested in those since you're clearly better than exceptions.
It's all fucking garbage. And it's really, it's the typical thing you'd expect. A lot of people are gonna throw out remixes to their favorite songs. Why? Because it's easy and it'll get attention. What happened when Frozen came out? Really? What happened? Not 2 days after Frozen came out, video upon video upon video upon video of people singing, remixing, playing, doing their version of Let It Go.
Yes, I can bet listening to all of the remixes of Frozen's Let It Go is repetitive and perhaps annoying. Perhaps you should stop agreeing to listen to them, or maybe you could listen to better remixes, or even better, have some faith in some of the people that are doing the covers. There are terrible covers, of course, but your constant exposure of them gets them more unwarranted popularity.
Your face! God damn it! God damn it! God damn it!
Every time Friendship is Magic comes out with a song, what happens is another remix of it. And what does that remix always amount to? You hear maybe 1 or 2 lines from the song, or maybe it's just slightly layered over. And what's it layered over? What do you hear the rest of the time?
Yes, we already know you're a 3-year-old in an adult's body. No need to keep reaffirming that.
Hell, that's only a fraction of remixers. And that means we have to go to our good friend Google to find a definition. Remix. Noun. A different version of a musical recording produced by a remixing. Remixing as a verb. Mix something again. Well, maybe an orchestral remix. Maybe a gender-bent cover of a good song. Maybe something that actually is not just or whatever baby noise crap you were making. And it seems like you're just doing this over just one freaking song. Yes, he only gives one example throughout the entire thing. Just to show, hey, this is what all dubstep music sounds like. Which we will get to very soon.
That's what it's layered over. That's it. No connection whatsoever. You might find someone who's really refined at hiding what they do. And I think probably the worst remix I have ever fucking heard is the Living Tombstone doing Bats. And that was because it completely destroyed the attitude, the atmosphere, the overall feeling of the song it was claiming to remix. It just took the lyrics, completely fucked up the tempo entirely, and threw some really shitty techno beat behind it.
Clearly you're dealing with an amateur and someone who is relying more on effects in order to make his or her tune more appealing to the YouTube subgroup who enjoys ponies and dubstep, which can be a massive Venn diagram depending on which pony song you're remixing. If you honestly have issues with that, perhaps listen to other songs that sample better. Maybe songs from DJ Shadow or the Avalanches or even Jay Dilla. Oh wait, you won't do that because clearly you're better than
You said it already!
You all are freaking bullies.
Not bullies, trolls. Seriously, you need to watch more Mr. Enter.
And I'm thinking, you fucking hack. You disgusting hack.
Insulting someone solely because they made something you don't like? You're truly a pitiful human being, you know.
Out of all the examples he gave just one simple fucking MLP remix, and that's all. If you're gonna give these points, show the names! Don't just show pony images that you found off your iTunes directory. We have shown you so fucking easily that you could find good examples. This genuinely bothered me. This is the part when I cracked. He talks about dubstep like it's just this cover of Bats, and nothing else. Has he heard much EDM? No, really. Has he? He seems like he has only determined from this one thing, and just barely even thought about the rest of it. It's like he's not even trying. It's like he just did this just because he knew it would piss people off, even though he's not even a frickin' troll. Oh. From this research here, it shows he knows nothing about this. So I'm even trying. No, I'm out. No, seriously, I'm out. No. I'll come to the Final Fast, but you just do the comment without me. You just go.
It's one of those things where it's genuinely upsetting because you are taking a really good song, and Daniel Ingram is like the highest peaks and valleys you wouldn't believe. He puts out one good song and two stinkers, and so when he puts out a really good one, you're thinking, God damn, is it good? He puts out some really bad songs, but when he puts out a good one, it is really, really, really good. And you have taken that and you have mangled it. You have absolutely destroyed it!
First of all, Po Buddy's nerfed since everyone flubs at some point. And second of all, your theatrics are hilarious. I can understand your frustrations with the songs, but if this is your method of comedy, then I suggest not trying so hard. Cool? Cool.
Anyone can be a drama queen and make something sound worse than it actually is. Watch. You have just taken your panties and twisted them. Twisted them so hard. You have made such a humongous deal out of a My Little Pony remix. You disgusting waste of oxygen. You have just taken the Escapist and ripped them off. Ripped them straight off. You have taken a dump on Escapist. You horrible disgrace. This is terrible. This is awful. Skipping, because all of My Little Pony connections are stupid when you realize this is just a subculture thing and it's not even relevant to the big picture of music.
Your face! God damn it! God damn it! God damn it!
And that's why I don't like dubstep. It's graffiti, is what it is. That's what it is. It is graffiti spray painted on a wall.
But see, you never fully differentiated between dubstep and electronica. Throughout this entire video, you conflated the two genres and acted like they're one and the same, when really dubstep and electronica as a whole are completely different sounds. Had you clarified and said dubstep, maybe I would have given more wiggle room for all of your polemical ranting and raving, but because you did not, I accuse you of first-degree generalization with malice towards electronica as a whole. Well, guess I better post this unmastered, unedited version of my song to iTunes to see what kind of profit I'll get. Thanks, Jerry Peet. You certainly solved my economic problems. I strongly urge you to straighten out your definitions of dubstep and electronica, and I further suggest to ease up on the pony music, free your mind, and expose yourself to other subgenres within the umbrella of electronica. Your opinion will be altered. As for the entirety of your ramble, I feel that saying you did it at 3 a.m. is more proof you probably had less time to think it through, and more of a chance to make majorly incorrect statements. Listen to Tool, ya tool. Or maybe Portishead's dummy.
Jerry, this is the second time I've commentated on you, and you still have the exact same problem of thinking that your audience will just blindly believe any bullshit you spew. Then there's your attitude throughout the video. Jerry, stop acting like your tastes are superior. Stop making shit up solely so you can hate something you know nothing about. And finally, actually listen to more than just a few songs from an entire genre before you judge it.
My god, this video sucked. The vision of dubstep is so narrow that you can essentially avoid only like 800% of this entire genre. Basically saying that it was just that one cover of Bass that he's shown. It's like me saying all classical music is pretentious and lengthy and boring, all because I heard just a couple of orchestral covers. Not to mention the points were overgeneralized, which made the entire rant hard to trust since you go into almost no detail. Especially for a ramble, that's a horrible idea. A ramble is essentially you going into too much detail, you giving so much crap about it that you ramble on about it. Jerry, if you're going to do more of these, at least know what you're doing before you just ramble on about why you hate this thing to no end.
This has all left me with one question. How did so many people agree with this?
Nanomachine, son!
Yeah, that's best I can figure.